Hey everyone, I'm Chris, and I'm a filmmaker. I specialize in horror films such as the very popular Don't Look Away, and my most recent horror short, Sweet Dreams. However, most of everyone on my channel remembers me from videos that I made way back in the day as a kid, Nerf videos. Specifically, my very popular Nerf War series. From 2009 to 2013, from the ages of 12 to 16, I made 13 Nerf Wars, most of which were actually done in the years of 2009 and 2010. But today, in the year of 2022, at the ripe old age of 24, I've decided to revisit these Nerf Wars and give an official Christopher Cox CACox97 ranking, tier list ranking, of my Nerf Wars as objectively as I can. It has been years since I've watched pretty much any of these, and what I am hoping to do is learn how my Nerf Wars changed over time and how they sort of morphed the way that I made films, and just kind of see the little kernels and stuff like, oh, this is where that originated and stuff like that, and just revisit the past. So here we have the tier list. I'm going to be ranking and reviewing these videos based on the Nerf Wars themselves. I'm not going to compare them to any of my films nowadays because then everything would be like a D and below basically. But what I really am going to do is just focus on like, all right, objectively with these Nerf Wars and what I was capable of and, you know, the sort of audience reaction, how would I actually rank each of these Nerf Wars? So let's start where it all began, my most popular video I have ever made, Nerf War The Candy Bar. Parts 1 and 2 mixed together. This video is a classic, but it's dated, it's very old, and it's just not very good. I mean, the thing is, I appreciate the premise a lot. I think the premise is nice and simple and funny. 3 people fighting over candy bars, specifically 2 kids and 1 adult. It's just like ridiculous, you know? And obviously, I'm looking at this from the lens of like, all right, like obviously 12-year-old made it, so I can't completely tear it apart and say, you know, oh, the composition's bad, the audio's terrible, the focus is, you know, whatever. It's like in the end, like, all right, let's just see if it's fun and good and makes sense. So this video makes sense. It's got a good premise, and that's really what carries it in a lot of ways. I think it showcases right away I had sort of a vision in mind. I wasn't just like, all right, I'm just gonna film this and blah blah blah. Like there are clear shots and, you know, compositions that I'm like, all right, I want the shot to look like this. It does drag in the middle, especially once you're getting into part 2. The beginning of part 2, I remember, kind of drags on, and it's just like, all right, like, are we gonna get to something new? Right away, it was something that I noticed, and I know that it will happen in future Nerf Wars. They stand there and shoot at each other over and over again. That's sort of a cheat that I used to do with the action, where it's like, you know, as a kid, you're watching action, like, yeah, they keep shooting at each other, it's exciting, right? But like, not really, because nothing's happening. They're just standing there, bang bang bang, and there's a good amount of that in Candy Bar, so, you know. Also, a lot of times it's like, what are they shooting at exactly? Like, it just kind of looks like they're firing at nothing, or we're not even seeing where the bullets, the darts are going. So what? We also just don't know what the rules are. Like, they get shot in the head, but then they're alive, and so it's sort of weird where when the dad finally dies, it's like, all right, why did that headshot kill him? You know, and I get it. I was a kid, you know, whatever. But, you know, if I'm critiquing this nowadays, that is definitely a critique that I would give my 12-year-old self. I'd say, listen, buddy, you got a lot of passion, but it doesn't make any sense. And the fist fight at the end is so dumb, but it's hilarious at the same time. So and then the ending is actually really good. The alternate ending, the original ending, it was completely dumb and made no sense, to the point where part 2, the alternate ending, is by far the one with the most views. And that's the one that I like showcase because that's the real ending, so I don't even know why I call it the alternate ending. But yeah, overall, I'm appreciative of what Candy Bar stands for, but at the same time, it is severely dated. I will give a little bit of forgiveness, just that it is the very first one, and I hadn't actually made a Nerf War before this, and I can see where it all began. So it's tough, but I think I'm gonna be a little bit nice, and I'm gonna put it in D. But you know, it's just gonna stay there. I think that's a pretty good starting point where we can go from. Friend versus Friend, the long-lost Nerf War that unfortunately was deleted due to copyright way back in the day, but luckily someone saved the video and I was able to re-upload it long after the fact. Thank you to that person. Friend versus Friend has always been one that I've never really paid attention to. I've always just kind of skipped over it. Even when I was making it, I kind of knew that it wasn't going to be a very good one for some reason. I just remember that. I just remember while I was making it, I was like, all right, you know, I think Candy Bar is just better. And this was, of course, before things became popular and stuff. So I was just making another Nerf War. But watching it now, it does have better pacing than Candy Bar. It kind of moves along a little faster. There's a little bit of better action shots as well. There's just a little bit more going on. It has no premise at all, which is like fine, I guess. for that video specifically, but I think in general the premises nowadays, while I'm watching them, the premise really does sell some of these videos. And if there's no premise, then it's just like, all right, why should I care? It is still severely dated. This one and Candy Bar to me are like the most dated ones by far. It also did drag in the middle once again, just a lot of blasting back and forth moments where they're standing there shooting, and then eventually there's a calm down moment. And in this one, it kind of dragged on even longer than the last one. There was fun though, because we got to go outside. There was a little bit more location switching, and there was kind of a funny little trick where like I act like I'm gonna go outside, and then he goes outside, but then I come back in, so then I can get a gun and stuff. But then I end up going outside anyway, and he knew, and it didn't really make sense at all. The ending is super dumb. Definitely the dumbest ending of any of these Nerf Wars, and just very half-assed thrown together at the very end there. I remember kind of like, wait, how do I end this? Whatever. And I don't know. In the end, this one is very similar to Candy Bar. It has a little bit better maybe editing and action moments, but overall I just don't care as much as Candy Bar. Candy Bar is more classic, and this ending was really dumb. Meanwhile, Candy Bar's ending is very good. So in the end, Friend vs. Friend I think suffers from a lot of the same problems as Candy Bar, but it came after Candy Bar, and Candy Bar's the classic one, so I think Friend vs. Friend just automatically gets bumped down, and I've just never really cared much about this Nerf War. I don't really think it adds that much new to it, but I can't hate it just because, you know, it was the second one I ever did, whatever. The ending's probably the main reason that I am gonna put it in the E category. I'm gonna stick it right there. I think that's a good place for it to be for now. Continuing on, clearly I love these Nerf Wars, right? Well, actually Nerf Raider War is an immediate step up. Right away when I was watching it, I was like, okay, this is actually way better. There's definitely immediately just a better story, there's better acting, there's better editing, like just all together, like you could feel it. The premise is great. I really love just one shot, just, you know, us hanging out, and that little look that I give Ben, like when he begins firing his gun, because all right away he was acting a little cocky, but very subtle cocky, you know, and it was very well handled, and then he starts firing his, and I immediately look like, oh shit, okay, wait, that's actually pretty good. So the premise is really good, actually. That's probably one of my favorite premises, especially because, you know, there was always this struggle of like, all right, is this a Nerf War in the sense that like it's like clear like we're kids playing with Nerf guns, or is this supposed to be taken seriously, like they're real guns and it's a real battle? And with this one, it's very clearly on the Nerf War side, and this one has a great reason for it. So just right away, I really was enjoying the setup. Ben also just has an energy to him that I think is very exciting. I think he and I just worked really well together in our Nerf Wars, just on camera. We both had this certain energy, and we always were working together with the Nerf Wars we were making. It was never like one of us was clearly directing the other. Like we both were kind of coming up with ideas on the fly of how this action would go. And I remember he really helped me push for like more actiony moments and stuff, which really showcased in this one. Just right away, there's more like pauses and moments where things shift and someone gets shot, and then, you know, someone dodges, and there's like slow-mo, and then there's like deflection, and just more movement and more actiony stuff going on. And that one's really fun in this one. I also really like the wall-to-wall shot where we're standing back to back there. That's a really cool shot. That's really cool because it really hypes it up, you know, like, oh, they're versing each other and they both have the same gun. Who's gonna win, you know? I also have always really liked this moving shot where Ben stands up and then he goes into the bedroom and he gets shot at and then he ducks down. The camera just like, the way the camera's moving and following him, my dad was filming. He did a great job. Just the way that whole sequence panned out, I remember right away, I was like, oh, I really like that shot. The music is also better in this one as well. Finally, I had a sort of music that had more intense tone to it, and it like stayed the same way. Like in the previous Nerf Wars, it would kind of go to iMovie music to then other music, and it was very clashy and didn't really mesh well together. But in this one, it's all, you know, it blends well. Also, the quiet portion in this Nerf War, every Nerf War had a quiet portion where it calms down towards the end. This one, really cool. It definitely hypes up like, okay, what's gonna happen? Who's gonna trick who? And then the ending, very cool, very exciting how we both die at the end, but like Ben gets a last laugh, and yeah, just overall, I had a lot of fun watching this one, honestly. Like, it's been a long time since I watched any of these. Candy Bar's the only one that I've watched relatively recently. Shout out to that video of the 11-year anniversary. But yeah, with Raider War, it had been so long, and like, I was expecting it to be pretty good. I remembered always liking it, but honestly, this was one of the bigger surprises watching. I was like, I actually really enjoyed that one a good amount. And it also just makes sense as like kids fighting each other, which none of these, and most of these videos never made sense. You know, it was always in this kid universe of like, oh, I'm a Nerf gun, I'm a soldier, and blah, blah, blah. This one made sense. So, you know, this one, definitely better than Candy Bar. Definitely, you know, I'm gonna bring it all the way up to B. Yeah, I'm gonna put it all the way up into the B category. I actually enjoyed that one a good amount, and I think in terms of the Nerf universe, that one makes a lot of sense. Nerf Raider War, that you get a B. Well done. Moving on to Nerf War, the second Chris versus Ben BCC Productions Nerf War. This one has a nice, funny, short intro. Just straight to the point, you know, nothing over dramatic. And gun sounds, they're finally gun sounds. They're not mixed very well, they're very loud, and you know, they never really become mixed at all, because sound mixing, what's that? But there's even more variety in the fighting this time around. There's definitely a lot less just standing there shooting each other. Finally, there's a little bit more variety going on with that. And I think also the gun sounds really do add to it. I think there's just more creativity in the sounds themselves and blending all that together. You can see the progression of, like, you know, each of these Nerf Wars, what are they introducing? Is there something new to them? And this one was definitely the gun sounds was the first big new thing. And then also just pushing even more these certain action moments, like running across with the dart sticking to the wall. That one's really fun. And there's more gun variety. We're always switching to them. We're going to the shotguns and then the machine guns and then the pistols and the sniping and all of that. It's just really fun. And I think we also did a really good job of using a very limited space in a creative way. Like, there's not that apartment was small. It was a 1-bedroom, but we really used the hell out of it. And I think we did a good job with that. The climax moment is actually really funny. For once, we had a funny climax where it was like, oh snap, here they go. Oh, the ball went into his mouth. And it's funny because I think now looking on it, that gun, which I forget what it was called, was the worst Nerf gun ever. It never worked. It was terrible. And so the first time we ever actually really used it, I think the only time I ever used it in Nerf War, was basically for a comedy moment. I think it's really funny. And again, I think that moment sells really well because Ben and I, you know, we were actors and stuff, and I think we worked really well together, and that was shown there. So, you know, that ending was very good. So once again, I had a really good time with this. I think the premise and just overall, you know, memories and vibe of Nerf Raider War maybe puts it a little bit above, but I think they both are about on the same even playing ground in terms of quality and my enjoyment of them. So I'm putting Nerf War in the B category. Now we're into good Nerf Wars. Now things are going well. Nerf War The Assassin. All right, now there's an action story. Now there's actually something that we're supposed to take seriously. Does it work? The pacing is even faster, where I'm actually pushing it more and more. The gun sounds are good. Like, overall, now we're getting to this energy now where it's like, all right, now they're fun action Nerf Wars, and I think that's showcased very well in this video. And there's just a lot of moving and grabbing different Nerf guns in this one. Definitely finally being back in a house with more space to work in. There's just a lot going on in this one, and it's fun. I love the face that Camden makes when he gets shot in the leg. I don't know why, that face just made me laugh. I really like the double firing moment where we both just go and then we're just standing there and we're like, oh my god, I can't believe none of those bullets hit us. That's funny. I think the comedy moments overall, sometimes when they happen in these Nerf Wars, they help really break up the pacing, and it's not just straight action the whole way through. So I think that is also very nice. But overall, there isn't as much cool action moments as in the previous two Nerf Wars. I think this one gets a little too much of the shooting back and forth and just kind of run, grab a new gun, shoot, grab a new gun, shoot. There's not quite as a variety of, you know, slow-mo, or they dodge this, or they get hit here, and, you know, just, you know, creative stuff like that. There's not as much of that in this one. We tried fist fighting, and it didn't really work. It's not very good, so, you know. But I also was trying to play around with more sort of like editing tricks. Like, I'm trying to build up like da 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 da, and then they tackle and stuff. There was a lot of that going on. I'm not really sure if it always worked, but it was kind of cool to see me try new stuff. And then the ending is actually cool and sudden. A lot of these had like this long build up to the ending. This one didn't. This one just straight up, boom, he just loses, the end. And it wasn't a headshot either, and it was a cool gun that we barely used in the Nerf Wars. So yeah, Assassin is good. Definitely still better than the OG2, but I prefer the previous Nerf Wars, so I'm going to put Nerf War The Assassin in the C category, right in the middle. I just want to take this moment to give a quick shout out to my media kit. If you ever wanted to see the Nerf guns that I used in my original videos and where you could possibly buy them, click the link in the description below. I have a link to my media kit with every Nerf gun that I ever used that I could find. If you ever wanted to get those Nerf guns, I found them, and I've included affiliate links in the description so you can check all of them out. Any Nerf guns that you end up getting actually supports me because they are affiliated links. So if you ever wanted to get those classic old Nerf guns and also also tell me any ones that I've forgotten, because I know I've forgotten some of them and I can't quite find them. If you ever do find links to them on Amazon, let me know and I'll add them into that media kit. But now, without further ado, back to the video. All is fair in love and Nerf. Oh boy, this one is a different one. It's a change of pace, and it wasn't my idea. I love to say that, but it is true. It was my dad's idea, and watching it now as an adult, it is very clear it was not my idea. The premise is great, honestly. This is probably the best premise, actually, of all of these Nerf Wars. This was like, oh, we're stepping back and being a little meta about this, where like these kids love these Nerf Wars and all that. It's a kid thing, but at the same time, there's sort of a inner kid in all of us, and that, you know, what if, you know, a married couple actually settled their differences with a Nerf War, and it's like fun and cute and, you know, not a real gunfight, you know. And I think that's really brilliant now as an adult watching it. I very much appreciate this video for what it is and what it's going for. I also love all of the little creative details, like how they hide all of the darts and guns in different places so the kid doesn't notice, and, you know, the kid doesn't even know that they're having the Nerf War in the first place, so they have to be secretive. And also, I'll just never get over my dad opening his gun cabinet stacked with guns, real guns, and he's like looking at them as if he's actually gonna grab a few, and he's like, not that one. It's like, bro, are you about to grab a real gun? What was the plan here? You're like, your mom has the pink Recon, and then you just roll up with a double barrel shotgun, like, all right, honey, are we going to Yellowstone? Then he grabs a Nerf gun and is like, ah, that's a funny joke. The fight is less of the focus this time around, which, you know, I still love my action. You know, I'm an adult now, maybe it doesn't matter as much to me, but in the end, it is a Nerf war, so you need action and you need good action. And by this point as well, the stakes are getting higher, the action is getting better, and I think this one lacks it for the most part. There is that last section of fighting that actually is pretty exciting. It gets really fast-paced. There's a lot of running around and moving around, and I was able to film, which is cool because I never usually get to film my Nerf wars because I'm usually on camera. So this was fun where I got to kind of tell them, all right, go here, do this, do that, and I was filming it, and I think that was really cool. And watching this, I'm like, all right, I can tell I was able to get some of these shots and follow this action, because honestly, I feel like I did a really good job back in the day of like just coming up with camera movements. I feel like that was always one of my strengths when I was a kid. There's a couple problems in this one, pacing changes where, like, you know, I love that I, the kid, am interrupting the fight and asking for help, and it like gives away the dad's position and stuff, but then like right after I'm done being helped, immediately I'm looking on YouTube and just sort of like, okay, you know, where's the pacing going? There's a little bit of pacing stuff going on there. The dad finding the mom, that shot is really cool. I just kind of like the composition of that and the way my dad's like, hello, I'm gonna get you, and it's like at the like at the very top of her note. I think that's kind of a cool spot. And then the ending is really funny and gives a really cool conclusion. And, you know, it's like the conclusion was that he got hit. You know, the first one to get hit loses. That, you know, wasn't exactly established, but at least there's a rule to the Nerf War this time around. It's not like they die or anything, so that was fun. And also just that, you know, oh, they're gonna settle another fight with the Nerf War. You know, it's fun and I like it. You know, overall, I think this one is one of the weaker ones in terms of the action itself, but it absolutely blows everything out of the water in terms of the setup and the creativity of some of just that setup in general. I think I'm gonna put it in the B category as well, right next to the other two. It's definitely there for different reasons. I think overall it is definitely amongst the better ones in my discography. Nerf War 2 Revenge. This intro is even more shorter and kind of dumb, doesn't really matter, and it's just like, whatever, let's get to the fight. I prefer better setups, but all right. We tried doing this thing where we were doing gunshots but without the darts. I'm not sure if we were going to add in muzzle flashes or not, because that was always sort of a critique that I got in my Nerf Wars back in the day, because a lot of other kids were doing the special effects stuff with muzzle flashes, and I didn't know how to do that, and I kind of liked that I didn't do that. So I'm not sure if we were going to try that with this one, but either way, it doesn't work, whatever we're doing. It just kind of looks silly, like, where are the darts? Because then we end up using the darts, so it's like, all right, where were the darts before? It doesn't work. Also, what was that headshot? He like shoots me in the head, but not really, and it's like, all right, if you didn't hit me, how'd you miss? And the rules of the Nerf War are still not fully established yet. They make a little bit more sense than like Candy Bar, but still kind of like, all right, so how do I know when someone's actually lost, you know? We also tried this new thing where the darts hit each other and there's this explosion, and I did it in Zombie Attack and stuff. I had explosions, but I didn't know how to do that, and I didn't know how to do the special effects for that, so I just made the screen super bright, and it looks goofy as hell. You know, whatever, it doesn't really work. And also the actual explosion, I remember watching this this Nerf War, I'm always like kind of having a good time with the fast-paced action, and then that kills the pacing completely. So we also used the Nerf foam bow and arrow thing towards the end, which is really cool, kind of like a grenade launcher. And I think that whole ending fight with that is pretty exciting. And I also really like that ending shot where Ben is about to reload and the boom gets shot. I think that one's really exciting. And then the actual ending where he just says no, I just straight up execute him, dude. I think that's hilarious. I've always found that moment so funny because it's like, is there a caveat? Like, shouldn't he just be dead already? Like, if he isn't dead, then something's gonna happen, right? No, I'm just gonna walk up to him and say, oh, it's just like the other one. No, just dead, done, the end. So that's funny. But ultimately, I think this Nerf War suffers just from not having enough new stuff to it. I think every Nerf War before it had something sort of new introduced to it in some way. I was always trying something new, but it is still fun and a competent Nerf War. It's me and Ben. That's always fun. So I think I'm gonna put it in the C category with Nerf War The Assassin. Another good Nerf War, right there in C. Nerf War The Assassin 2. Ooh boy, this one was a lot of work. I remember this video gave me so much stress back in the day. The setup is nice. It's like, oh snap, I actually wasn't dead. Cool. And it's kind of cool to like have an actual sequel to these Nerf Wars where like makes sense, I guess. This one, right away, I was like, okay, I'm going for a little bit more of a cinematic, darker tone, a little bit more going on. I just want to point out that all the boss stuff is so goofy and just like whatever, like all that stuff I like to just skip. It's just like I don't care. Like the setup is not very good. However, Camden going yeah is hilarious. That actually made me bust out laughing. So thank you, Camden, from a decade ago. You're funny. You're still funny. This one was a lot. This is a lot of action, a lot of fast-paced, intense stuff. Like that is the biggest takeaway with this Nerf War. Watching it, I would say this is the culmination of everything that I had done previous. I think it really feels like this big epic thing where I'm mixing together all the different tricks, all the little, you know, we're grabbing all kinds of different Nerf guns. There's setups where some are hidden elsewhere, and then we remember them, and we're running around this way, and we're going this way, and now we have a fist fight, and now we have this and that, and you know, oh, I keep getting shot, but then I keep getting back up, and it's like this constant fast-paced battling. It is intense and fun. There's also that kick that I give Camden. I think that kick is so boss and cool. Unfortunately, this was shot over the course of several days, which is one of the only times I think these Nerf Wars had that, and it's obvious because the second day that we shot, it was not sunny and it was dark, and so yeah, that's a harsh, ugly cut. That's just like, what? And then eventually becomes sunny again, and that was day 3. So day 3 would have blended with day 1. Day 2 did not. The fist fight, finally we got the fist fight working in the middle there. I really like that. I also like some running shots with the deploy and the Vulcan. The sledding is silly. I know what I wanted. Because we shot it in the winter, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be so cool. We're gonna be like sledding on the snow. But every time we were gonna go do that shot, there was no snow. So I just kind of shot it anyway. It makes no sense, and the continuity is so bad. You know, try and vary up the climax in some way, because all right, what else can we do? Oh, we can do a whole sledding thing. And also, I've always just really liked the shot where I fall. I fall off the sled, and I commit to that hit where I really just fall and knock my back onto the little shed out there. That shot now, like I'm like, damn, I really took that hit, you know? So a little stuntman. And then the gun hole at the end is fun. We had a little makeup bit where it's like, oh, he's totally dead, blah, blah, which is like nice because, you know, this whole fight was really like, this whole thing was just one constant non-stop action set piece. So it's nice to have like a big gaping bullet hole in his head. It's like, oh, he got finished off. So yeah, this one, my gosh, you know, if you want the culmination of the classic Nerf War era, where it is just kind of two people fighting over and over again, I think this is the one. I really enjoy this. I've always enjoyed it. I remembered it being like my favorite video ever when I first made it. There is still some stuff where it's like, it is just like nonstop action. It would have been nice to have a little bit more going on. There is this middle portion where I like defeat him for a second. I ask him, why are you after me? And he's like, oh, you stole money from a corporation. And then I'm like, oh, I never did that. It would have been nice to have some kind of change of pace where like they're starting to fight for a different reason, or, you know, something. Maybe Camden reveals that, oh, I actually stole the money and I'm just doing this because I want, you know, something new, something different. There is no reason, and the plot didn't matter at all. So that's where it's like, why is there setup if there is no payoff to that setup? It is just a reason for them to be fighting. So that's not the strongest with this one. That's probably my biggest negative of the video, but either way, it is fast, thrilling, intense, the culmination of everything previous. I'm gonna give it an A. I think it is definitely the best of the bunch overall. Mixes together most of the best qualities that I had learned up to that point. I think if you watch Candy Bar and then watch that one, and you know, they came out, my god, like 8 months apart from each other, not even. Pretty cray-cray. Nerf War Procurement, a different one, the only one that I did not edit, and that is always a little fun fact I like to give. Ben actually edited this one. This one is sort of funny because it was on the tail end of like Ben and I, like when we were hanging out and stuff, because we were both in a musical called Ragtime back in the day. You know, we both were living in New York City at the time, so we would visit each other, and we just filmed Nerf Wars a lot of the time. So that's why we had those Nerf Wars in that apartment, that whole like BCC Productions trilogy. And then Procurement, we ended up doing that in his apartment, and it was later on after the show had already closed and we both were kind of moving on, and this was just sort of a fluke where we were just visiting each other and we're like, hey, let's quickly film another Nerf War. I've always liked the fun, fast-paced reloading clips that Ben always did. He did it a lot in his Nerf War the movie, which I don't know if that exists on YouTube anymore. Unfortunately, his channel got deleted a long time ago because YouTube saw he hadn't uploaded in forever. So instead of, I don't know, letting it sit there, they deleted it all, which is messed up. But he sort of invented that. I'm not sure where he got it from. He might have gotten it from like Edgar Wright or something. But yeah, that was always really cool. There's a little too much standing and shooting in this one. That sort of came back. We didn't have as much action moments as the previous ones. I think we were in a bit of a rush with this one. It was not quite as planned out. I think this one, the pacing kind of suffers a little bit here and there. There's a little bit of melee action towards the end, which is kind of fun. A little bit of variety there. But overall, I actually don't really have a whole lot to say about this one. I think overall, this one suffers from just being not as eventful as the previous ones and just not as memorable. I don't think it really does anything new. And the setup, like, oh, that clear recon is mine. It's like, all right, whatever. Also, the title Procurement. Literally, we were like, we gotta name it something cool. And we were like, procure means to like get something. So I don't know, Nerf War Procurement. It's dumb. That's fine, you know. But you could probably tell where I'm gonna put it. I'm gonna put it in D. It gets the D. Yep, slow your roll, cowboy. We're talking about Nerf War Infiltration. The winner of the Nerf War brackets that I did a couple years ago, little fan vote. I would love to do more of those in the future. Comment if you would like to do more of those. But yeah, Infiltration, right off the bat, there's a darker tone and it's believable because we have like costumes and stuff, and you know, it's like, oh, we don't just look like kids running around with toys. We kind of, yeah, there's just a little bit more going on. And also the saturation really helps with that, where it's not quite as bright and colorful. Instead, it's like dour and desaturated and like dun dun dun. There's a whole story this time around, like military infiltrating the base, something completely new. There's new music as well to match that, and I think that works with the tone very well. Just everything's upgraded. It's more cinematic, there's more locations, we're outside, then we go into the house. There's a lot of things going on in this Nerf War that right away just watching, I'm like, all right, this is different. This is like a lot more going on, a lot more ambitious. There's also a lot of different scenes, just a lot of like moments where it goes up and then down, and there's like an ebb and flow to it. There's a good pacing with this one where it kind of feels like a movie in a way. This airplane doesn't realize that I'm filming this Nerf War tier list video. What the fuck? I like that the base looks like a house. I tried to justify that, you know, because I wanted this one to be taken a little more seriously. So it's like, all right, why does it look like a house? Oh, more inconspicuous. That's funny. That works. The guards standing the wrong way. That doesn't work. That's goofy as hell. So whatever. We got a little bit of sword fight action again every now and then. Just try and sprinkle in something new. Some fist fighting, some sword fighting. And, you know, the sword fighting isn't very good. It's no Nerf Arena. But it's a little something, something. Also, it's really cool that then we split up. So then there's like two different action pieces going on at the same time, which is really exciting. There's just a lot of like a little different set pieces, and it's kind of cool just to see like a team up and stuff. And it's also nice because like the audience knows me and Camden out of the people there, so it's like, all right, they want us to win. Like they already kind of believe that we're the good guys. It's also just cool to have an ultimate villain guy. Brian played that villain, same guy, same kid in the Zombie Apocalypse series, and he was also really fun to work with. He was really cool and committed to the action. Also, finally, we have a little bit more rules going on with you know, where you get shot, how much damage can you take, because you know, like when I get shot like in the arm, it's like, oh snap, you got shot, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, I'm alright, and stuff like that. So there's a little bit more of that going on where like by the end we're pretty beat up and it's like, oh, we're not doing too well. So there's a little bit more rules going on with that. I appreciate that. And then, oh boy, let's get to it. The ending. I mean, first of all, Camden getting gunned down is just really cool and like tragic at the same time. Like very rarely are you like kind of like, no, like sad in Nerf War. And then the whole escape sequence is really exciting. And the twist ending, I'm so happy with that ending. That is definitely now just like watching, I'm like, man, that's ballsy. The change of pace, just everything about this Nerf War was just upped the ante, and then having a darker story that then ends with a bad ending. Like the good guys lost. They lost by getting betrayed. She betrays him, and it's like, oh no, like, oh, that twist I think is handled really well. Like watching it, like, all right, so how am I supposed to know what's going on? Because a lot of times now, like if you watch something that a kid made, it doesn't make sense, but it makes sense to them. In this case, it makes sense either way, which is nice. Boom, headshot, dead, the end. Just ends sad, no caveat. I really like it a lot. I think it is definitely the best Nerf War that I made, at least up to that point. I won't give away my opinion of the future ones, but definitely watching it, you know, this one, step up in every way. I think it definitely deserves the S tier. It's just pretty much everything you could ask for in a Nerf War, especially like a classic old Nerf War. Well done, 13-year-old me. You did a good job. Nerf War Vengeance. So, what did I decide to do after Infiltration, the biggest video that I had ever made? Well, it was going to be a step down. It wasn't going to be as ambitious. Instead, it was just going to be a nice classic 1v1 fight with me and Camden. But I had a fun little audience vote for the people to decide who they wanted to win, which was nice. Something a little different going on there. Yes, I wanted to have a darker, more intense tone like Infiltration, but it does not work in this video. Unfortunately, the setup is kind of dumb and pointless. It's like, you stole the money. It's like, what? And then he has a body double, and it's like, what? It doesn't matter. This one is kind of just non-stop action again, similar to Assassin 2. The premise is pretty weak, and this one does just kind of feel like I just wanted to have non-stop action, which is fine, you know, but it's not going to give you an S tier, unfortunately. Unfortunately, also the camera, we were using a different camera in this one. It's like dark, and you can't really tell what's going on half the time in this one. That's a critique my film perspective would give. Also, some music and editing transitions aren't very great, which is kind of surprising because I did better in previous ones, so I don't know what happened with this one, but yeah, it was a little bit sloppy, like, all right, wait, it just got really loud and then really quiet, what? I think this one, however, is the most creative one so far with the action and gun switching. I think the action set pieces in this one, the constant moving around and grabbing this and that and boom, 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 very creative, very fun, and very exciting. It also has a really cool shot of me up against the wall with Camden in the background. I think there's some good shots like that one in there. Now, even though the music sometimes was a little not as well edited, the music cue when I grab the shield is really cool. I think that one is like, boom, like at first you thought I was gonna lose, but then I'm not gonna lose. And it's like, yeah. And then another fun little sword fight. It's cute, you know, whatever. I don't think any of these sword fights have ever wowed me. I think in terms of something, you know, all right, you have the fist fighting and then the sword fighting. The only times they've ever been sold as like, oh, that was actually cool and different and worked was the fist fighting portion in Assassin 2, especially that kick was really good. And then the final standoff is kind of cool, and it's just nice, like, oh snap, who's gonna win? Camden's transition from stone cold Steve Austin, you know, oh, I won, yeah, like that transition to him just dancing is hilarious. I love that. Like this dark, you know, intense fight ends with him being like, haha, I won, you lost, and he's dancing. It's hilarious. And then actually, I was a little surprised, the mom coming in and revealing that she actually took the money. It's almost like sort of the meta thing where it's like, oh, we were in the kids' heads of like, oh, they are fighting, you know, this is a real thing, but then in reality it's a Nerf war, so, you know, the money, you stole the money. Well, in reality it was just mom took money to go buy something. So the premise may be slightly saved by the ending there. I'm not really sure. I probably rewatched Vengeance the most, actually, back in the day. I used to love this one, and Assassin 2 were the most just non-stop action ones, and I always really liked watching it. Now, the weak premise does drag it down. The little editing mistakes here and there, and sort of also just like it's dark, I can't see what's going on, kind of affects it. As well, I think just coming off of the heels of Infiltration, just sort of seeing like, oh, I'm capable of that, and then coming to this one feels like a step down. I think we're getting a little older. I've proven that I can do something else, so it feels like a step back to go back to just two kids fighting in a house over some arbitrary reason. I think the premises need to be better, but it is still actiony, exciting, so I'm going to put it in the B category alongside of the other Bs. I'm not really sure where I would put it in the Bs. I'll probably save that for the end, but yeah, you get a B, Vengeance. Moving on to the penultimate Nerf War, A Very Nerf Christmas. This one is very different in that there's like a whole little story and like credits and it's Christmas music, and it's like, what? what? Like, I don't really know what motivated me to want to make a Christmas Nerf War, but hey, I did it. So yeah, it's cute. The Christmas tree is beautiful, by the way. Well done, my mom and dad. Oh, just great set decorating. The setup is definitely better this time around. It's like, oh, okay, like it's Christmas and this guy's breaking in. It, you know, it's still a kid, so it's like, all right, a robber, what? I think also I was going for like a dickish burglar attitude, but it's sort of tough where like Camden's just quiet and stone cold, so there's no one to really relate to in the Nerf War. There's no good guy. Like, I'm technically the bad guy, but Camden isn't given enough to be the good guy that we're rooting for necessarily. Some little fun facts as well. This is the first HD Nerf War. It's 1080p, which is shocking, and I bet you can't tell because my god, could that camera not handle the darkness of the rooms and stuff, especially that opening shot. Oh my god, the static is so bad, but we still had some nice little stuff going on. I think there's some cool cinematic shots here and there, especially with the setup. I think I put more stock into the setup this time around. I wanted to give more of a story and a little bit more movie-like quality, and there's that one shot coming down from the tree that then comes to me as I'm opening the present. That one's really nice. The darkness and lack of music during the dialogue bits actually isn't half bad. It's sort of like All Is Fair in Love and Nerf, I think, where like, oh, these characters are talking to each other and we're setting up this premise. I think sometimes it's not handled very well, but I think it's actually handled pretty well in this one. Also, the music's fun. The theme Christmas action music, very fun, especially using Carol of the Bells, because even without the action, Carol of the Bells is the most boss Christmas music of all time. The action, not that great. No, it's kind of weak. It's sort of like All's Fair in Love and Nerf, but worse. I think there's just not much good action. There's a little too much standing shooting, a little too much breaking up with the fighting as well. With this, you know, 7-minute video, I think there's only like 2 minutes of actual real Nerf War. So yeah, that's a little weak. I do love the tackle shot though. That tackle shot right there, I've always really liked that. I think the movement and the way the camera pans down as I tackle him is really cool. I also am just kind of wondering, was the action weak as well because Camden actually had a broken arm and we had to work around that because we didn't want him doing too much physical activity. So that might have been part of the reason why the action wasn't as good. But either way, action not good. Santa arriving and punching me, just the voice, everything about the Santa bit, watching it now, is funny. I think it's hilarious, especially the sup. That's a little setup and payoff where I say sup in the beginning, Camden doesn't respond, and then when I see Santa, I say sup, and then Santa's like, sup. That's funny as well. And also, there's actually some nice little symbolism at the end there with Joey winning the Nerf War because he was given a present from Santa because he was on the nice list. And me, the burglar, I'm on the naughty list. And then the epic final line, naughty or nice. Like, that's cute. The music with it as well. It's like, oh, that's fun. That's all right. So the premise is fun. A little bit more cinematic stuff, a little bit, but not quite pulled off as well, especially the dark stuff. When it's dark, it looks really bad. And also the actual action is amongst the weakest of the Nerf Wars. I'm a little conflicted with this one. I've always kind of had a problem with it. I've always sort of not really cared too much about the final Nerf Wars that I did, and I think that was part of the problem when I was making them, is that by that point I had sort of wanted to move on. I think if I have to marry it to a tier on the tier list, I'm gonna put it in the D category. Just the weak Nerf War itself really holds it back. The only good action bits is the tackle. That's really it. So for over 7-minute long video, I would have liked better action. And we have finally arrived at my last Nerf War that I ever made, Nerf War Liberation. I don't know why I wanted a 4th of July thing. I don't know why I was going for these holidays, because like, all right, Christmas, and people look up, no one looks up 4th of July stuff, so I don't know why I did that. Maybe because it was during the summer, who knows? But yeah, this one was sort of a surprise making as well, where Spencer, I was meeting for the first time in real life. We had known each other for several years on Xbox Live, but this is the first time we're meeting each other in real life at RTX 2013, and that was really cool. And I wanted to make a Nerf War, and it was sort of a bummer where I just kind of went into director mode, and we sort of missed out on just having fun. I was too focused on wanting to just make this Nerf War, and also by this point I was like 16 and I was getting tired of this. I was like, all right, I don't really want to make Nerf Wars anymore. So I'm not really sure why I wanted to make this one. Maybe I wanted to see what I could do and push it more cinematically, and I don't know. But there was a lot of restrictions on this one right away because we had limited time. The space that we were using, we couldn't use as creatively because it was like in the middle of nowhere sort of thing. It was like a ranch. So there was just a lot of problems going into this. So watching it now, the tone, the pacing, editing is good. It is very clear what's going on. There is a setup. I don't like the setup. I think the setup's kind of dumb, and it just doesn't work because, like, again, I'm like supposed to be this badass bad guy. I'm like in a Subway Eat Flesh t-shirt. Like, who cares? It just looks stupid. We also, it's just, you know, we're watching this and it's like, all right, I can tell it's like kids and teenagers. Why am I supposed to take this seriously? Infiltration just worked better because there was more like costumes and stuff going on. So the location, however, is beautiful. That ranch, that whole, like, that was really the reason I wanted to film it was, oh, wouldn't it be cool to like film in the desert? The location's really cool. It restricted us, but it was really cool. So that's really the only thing that I remember from this Nerf War is just like, oh, cool location, yeah. And then also, once again, who are we supposed to root for? Because I'm an asshole and I'm also apparently a criminal, but at the same time, Spencer is a cop, but he doesn't have a lot to go on, and it's just like, who are we supposed to root for here? Yeah, that's just another problem that I always had with this one. I like the music. Once again, I had fun with the themed music this whole 4th of July. I played a lot of like classic American colonial music, and then Star Spangled Banner at the end. So that's fun. This one also has the problem of lack of darts, and finally I had visual effects in it. I had muzzle flashes and stuff. I had a fan do it. I appreciate them for doing it. Now that I'm watching it, I definitely prefer just darts. I just think the muzzle flashes kind of take away from the Nerf War itself. And also just like the coloring as a whole in this Nerf War, like it's kind of hard to tell what's going on. The shaky cam is way too shaky at times. Also, this is completely random, but there's a moment where, because I keep shooting Spencer in the leg, and it's like this heartbeat moment where it's quiet. It's like, oh, it's intense. And then I run out and Spencer runs out. The Star Spangled Banner begins playing. I shoot a foam arrow into Spencer's leg. He goes, ah, I back up, and then he just goes, quit hitting me in the leg. I don't know why. Just all that blended together with the Star Spangled Banner playing in the background is hilarious to me. That was just like an odd comedic moment that I'm sure I did not intend. There's also a really cool tree shot with, what is this? A rack focus? Huh? What? Cinema? And then the climax. Kind of exciting. The music mostly sells it. I tried to do this cool, like, you know, rolling, catch the gun in the air thing. I don't think the camera angles fully capture it enough. And also, I just wasn't as limber as I needed to be for a cool action moment like that. It just doesn't sell as well. But I tried something. And then, even though the ending line and ending, you know, the conclusion is dumb, like, what? Then it's my Independence Day? What? You're a criminal. Who cares? That's dumb. It is cute that, like, it cuts from the shots and then the firework. I think that's a nice creative little, you know, a la 2001: A Space Odyssey for you cinema buffs out there. It took me a lot of time to really think this through, and I think I hold a lot of bias against this Nerf War, but I do believe it is the only Nerf War on here that I regret making, even though it is objectively better than, you know, my older Nerf Wars, especially the first two. I think at the end of the day, I do prefer Friend vs. Friend over Liberation, and Liberation's the one that I kind of wish I never did. So I think, yeah, it's going to be the only one that I'm going to give an F. And there we have it, our whole tier list. So if I had to go in order and actually rank these specifically, bang, 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 obviously we got Liberation at the bottom, only Nerf War that I wish I never made. I kind of just think that one was basically a waste. Then Friend vs. Friend, very forgettable, really introduced nothing new. Pretty much, you know, you can honestly skip that one because there's nothing there. And then in the D category, so I guess if we're going left is the highest, so we start with the bottom at the right. You know, I'm gonna try and go against my biases. I think that Candy Bar objectively is worse than these two, just because it does drag on a lot and it's just very severely dated. I think it just squeaks on by into the D category because of the originality and classicness of it. And then this is so difficult because the Christmas Nerf War is in some ways one that I also kind of wish I never made. I kind of wish it had just ended at Vengeance. I think Vengeance was a solid one to end on. Infiltration was the top, obviously, but, you know, Vengeance was still a really good one. I think once you reach the Christmas one is where it's kind of getting this sort of feeling like, all right, why am I still making these Nerf Wars a bit? But I think Christmas still has original stuff going for it, and it is actually funny. There's still good film moments in there. Procurement is kind of a very forgettable one. I think it falls into the more classical Nerf War era, so it feels more genuine. But I think it's pretty weak, actually, in terms of the fighting itself. But it's also quick and to the point. and doesn't waste my time, I'm gonna give it just a slight edge of Christmas over Procurement is below Christmas. I think I'm gonna go Candy Bar, then Procurement, then Christmas. I think the Christmas one just has a little bit more going on with the comedy and the story itself. I think Procurement feels very just fast forward through, just get to the fight. And you know, in a way, I guess they're opposites in that sense, but I think Christmas slightly gets the edge. Onto the C category. I think the fighting is better in Revenge, and it's quicker and to the point. But at the same time, the Assassin storyline is better, and I think, you know, maybe it's a little more exciting. I think Revenge kind of has this feeling of like, why do we care? I also don't like the whole lack of, you know, we were doing that whole fake shooting thing. That really kind of holds it back. But I think the action moments are better than Assassin. I think I'm going to give the edge to Revenge, actually. I think just the action being better really carries it. I think when I think back on Assassin 1, I do think that there is some kind of weaker action moments, and especially after coming from, you know, you go to Raider War and Nerf War to then that one, I think by then I had proven that I can do better action. I think Assassin doesn't showcase it as well as Nerf War 2 Revenge. But again, both of those are very close. So now onto the B's. This one is also going to be very difficult. It's looking good. I actually think Vengeance is the weakest of the B's because it is the later one. So again, it's sort of like what new is being introduced. The action is at its best probably in that one, but it's kind of dark and, you know, the story's dumb. So I think I would put it there. All is Fair in Love in Nerf. The story is very original. I love that story. I just wish the actual Nerf War itself was better handled and some of the pacing issues were a bit fixed, but I love the premise, so I'm probably going to keep it right there. I think Nerf War, ironically, is the most regular Nerf War. If you wanted to just sit down and introduce someone to, here's what a Nerf War is, that's it. It's got the gun sounds. It's got all the gun switching. Ben and I are already in the middle of it. We just have a quick little premise that didn't I kill you? You know, and that's it. And we get to the fighting quick and to the point. There's really no weak points at all. And it's just solid, honestly. And then on the other end, I will put Raider War just slightly above Nerf War because Raider War's premise is great. It's one of the few on here that just has a regular, like, hey, we're just gonna fight with Nerf guns, and that's like what this is. And I think it's handled very well. It's also the third one I ever did, so it kind of holds that classicness where it's like, yo, this was such a step up from the first two that I hold a lot of respect for it. So congratulations to Nerf Raider War coming in out of nowhere as my third favorite Nerf War that I ever did. And then, of course, we have Nerf War The Assassin 2 in second place. That one is the ultimate big Nerf War. You know, you go from Nerf War, which is just regular whatever, but then Assassin 2 is like, all right, bigger and more epic, just long, like, oh my god, they just keep fighting over and over again. Like, I don't really see how, like, an 11-year-old, you know, would get bored watching that video. Once the fighting starts, it never stops. It's constant, and it's fun. And then, of course, the true best one, definitely my favorite, the rightful winner of that bracket so long ago. Nerf War Infiltration takes everything that these other Nerf Wars did, ups the ante with a better story, darker tone, a great twist ending, costumes, characters, just everything is upped altogether. I think, you know, if I actually do become a full-on successful filmmaker and I have my own production company and blah blah blah, I would like people to see this video as like the true start of like, hey, like this kid was gonna go places. He knew what he was doing. He was 13 years old and he made this video. And it's pretty dang good. Comment below how you would rank them or click the link in the description because guess what? I'm including this tier list in the description so you can rank it yourself. Share your thoughts if I'm totally wrong and I roasted one that you loved, which is sort of funny because I'm the one who made it. So it'd be kind of funny if like someone else loves something that I made that I don't. I don't know. That's sort of funny. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure to check out not only the tier list in the description, but also the Nerf gun collection if you want to see all of those classic old Nerf guns that I had and maybe even get one yourself on Amazon. Help support me. That would be awesome. Thank you very much for watching this video. All of my social media stuff is included in here. You can check out my Patreon as well to support me in my filmmaking career. If this is the first video that you have seen from me in a very long time, thank you for coming back. I'm going for this whole YouTube filmmaking thing now. I'm committing to it as an adult, and I think part of that, the excitement of that is also just revisiting the past, seeing how I started. So this was really fun. Nice fun trip down memory lane. So that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching.